In today's video, I will be giving you an overview of the different levels of parameters, where they appear, and why there are different levels. We also will be going through a couple of different user-created attributes and how to make them and the differences between them. For this video, I will be demonstrating using Cabinet Vision version 12. I will be using Cabinet Vision on the ultimate level. It is worth noting at this point that user-created attributes are only available in Solid Advanced and above. They also work best if you have an understanding of object tree, and some of the examples today I will be utilizing the object tree itself. What we're going to do to start off is we're going to click on our Utilities tab up the top of the screen and then select the parameters. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a brief run over of what you can do and what everything means in this window before making our first user-created parameters and attributes. First, we have the Prompt tab. This field allows you to establish a user-friendly prompt or name to simplify use by other Solid users, or to explain in more detail what the parameter means. Parameter. This is the name displayed in the object tree and also used by UCSs to check or set its value. It is recommended that you prefix your parameter with U underscore to help differentiate between system parameters. Of course, this is only a recommendation, as you can name them whatever you like. Type. In the type, you will have a drop-down menu with multiple different options. This type allows you to specify the values type. So, measurement will have a value which references a measurement or size. Degree, which will have a value of the degrees in it which you would like to move a cabinet or rotate apart. Integer. Integer is a solid number more common in CV used for choices in a list with different options, which I will be going through later on in this video. Boolean is a true, false, yes, no. Decimal is a number with a decimal in it, decimal place. Text is where you would write a text for a note. Currency will add price to a part or cabinet, usually when using bid center. And then value. In value, this is the default value for the parameter. Class. You have multiple different classes here. This allows you to specify which level the parameter will be placed in, such as job level, room level, cabinet level, or specific cabinet types, such as base cabinet, upper cabinet, tall cabinet, and vanity. And then you have style, which also has a drop down. This option allows you to specify whether the parameter is defining an attribute or a note. A parameter defined as a note will add a notes tab to the class level it is defined for. These notes can be called up and utilized in CAD tables and CAD text lookups. What I'm going to start off by showing you is adding two different types of parameters in from the splash screen before we go into the job. One is going to be a cabinet note, which is going to be a note that is referenced using CAD at a cabinet level. Then we are going to make an attribute that will be referencing a question in our construction method to be able to change our kick height with an attribute at room level. First, we're going to go into Utilities and then Parameters. Then for our prompt, for our cabinet note, we are going to be writing cabinet note. Our parameter is going to be U underscore C note. Our type is going to be a text. The value is going to be cabinet note. The class is going to be cabinet level, and the style is going to be a note. Second one is going to be our toe height. our parameter is going to be a system parameter, which is TOH. That is why I won't put a U underscore before it, because it is already a system parameter. It's going to be a measurement. I'm going to show you where to get the value in a minute. It's going to be at room level, because if you've got a job with multiple different rooms in it, it could have multiple different kickboard heights, and then it's going to be an attribute. So to find the value for this one, as we'll be referencing a question in the construction method, we're going to have to go to the construction method, go to our assembly, go to exterior case, toe kick, and find the question hashtag 238, which references the toe height. So we're going to jot 238 down, go back to our utilities, parameters, and in value we are going to put underscore CV colon 238. So now when we open a job, we are going to see our toe height parameter there. So when I pull out a cabinet and go to elevation view, and I change my toe height to 300, you'll see that my kickboard will change in height to 300. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and go through our cabinet note. So if I right click on the cabinet, you will now see when I go to properties that there is a notes tab where it says cabinet note. If I call this a 2-door base and hit OK, you'll see that my note has not appeared. To make that note appear, I need to double click on the cabinet, go into face view, select CAD on the left hand side, go to my text box. I want to place it here, and I'm going to go squiggly bracket cab dot u underscore c note close squiggly bracket. Hit OK, and that is going to reference our cabinet notes. So now when I hit return and return again, you will see that I still can't see it in elevation view. The way to fix that is by making sure that you've selected on the cabinet, right clicking, properties, and then selecting show elevation CAD. Now you can see that we can see the 2-door base note that I applied before on the front. Another way we can do this, instead of right clicking on the cabinet, going to properties and finding notes, is we can turn that cabinet note into an attribute by going up to our object tree, then finding the cabinet, going to u underscore c note, hitting edit, and then where it says style up the top right, we can change it to attribute, hit OK, and then OK again. And now when we select on the cabinet, we now have the attribute, the cab note attribute there. That we can change on the left. So completely up to you if you want to add note or an attribute, but there are the two ways of doing it. So now what we're going to do is we are going to make a Boolean attribute, which is a true, false, yes, no attribute, on this cabinet to rotate a top stretcher. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on the cabinet, go into end view. We're going to select on the top stretcher and rotate it by 90 degrees to start. So now we can see that it is in the correct spot in the vertical, and it needs to drop down. So first what we need to do is we need to go to our object tree, and on our cabinet level we want to make an attribute. We want to make a boolean attribute, and we want to call it u underscore rotate top stretcher, and then the description rotate TS, and then we're going to hit OK. So now we can see we've got a true false here, and when we tick it, it does nothing. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to attach the rotations to an object tree and add a few equations in to make sure that when it's false it is horizontal, and when it is true it's vertical. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up object tree, go into case top stretcher, and then we're just going to add some simple equations in. So what we're going to do is go in here. We're going to do an if statement. So if u underscore RTS equals 1, then we want it to be minus 180. And why I know it needs to be minus 180 is, as you can see on the right hand side here, when we've rotated it, you'll see these little people on the left hand side, which identifies that this has manually been changed and it is not standard. So I know this one needs to be minus 180, so I'm going to hit test and OK. You would have noticed in this equation I put a double equals. The reason for that is because a double equal sign is equal to a query, where a single equal sign is equal to a definition. So the reason why you do this, because it doesn't know, CV doesn't know the difference between if you're making a statement or if you are making a query, where UCSs, you don't need to worry about it because a UCS can define the context that you are writing. Next one is going to be 0. So what I'm going to do is an equation. If u underscore RTS equals 1, then 0, test. And then we can see that AZ is going to be 90. So if u underscore rotate TS equals 1, then 90, test, hit OK. And now you'll see when I tick false, it will flip in the correct way. So now we can see here that what we need to do is, when it's on true, we need to drop the top stretcher down the width of itself. So we're going to go into object tree, we're going to go to case, top stretcher, and go to the Y position. We're going to double click on Y, change it to an equation, and we want it to be if u underscore rotate TS equals 1, then we want it to be cab dot dy minus dx, which is giving us the cab height minus the dx of the top stretcher. Hit OK, OK again, and now it'll even apply an operation as well on true. So false, it'll sit in the correct spot, and then true will rotate correctly also. So that is our rotate top stretcher attribute that we've done, which is a boolean. Please keep in mind, guys, that any user created attributes and parameters that you create you will need to thoroughly test them so they work with your system. For example, if I was to go in and detach toe and then delete it and went into end view, when I hit false, you will now see that my top stretcher has lifted the height of the kickboard. So for this, what I'm going to have to do is go in and add an equation in here, delete this one, then we will need to add a new if statement, so u underscore RTS equals 0, which means false. Then we want it to be cab.case.dy, which is the height, minus TOEH, which is the toe. And now you will see when I rotate it without a kickboard, it will still work correctly. So just making sure, guys, that you are always thoroughly testing all attributes and user created parameters that you guys make, seeing everyone's construction method and or system itself is set up differently. So mine may have one equation in it where your system may be built completely different and may need a different equation. So just keep in mind, guys, that these are all examples and you guys may not have the same construction method, for example, as what I'm using in this video. The next one we're going to do is a couple of different ones which are going to be applying to a route. So we're going to have an integer which is going to have more than one option, which is going to have a left and a right, and then we're going to have two attributes that are going to be cut out width and cut out length. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach these ones to a part level. So we're going to select on the deck, and then we are going to go to object tree. We're going to go to case, deck, and because we want them to be attached at a part level, we want to make sure that we're selected on deck when making these. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an integer attribute, which is going to be u underscore LOR, which is going to be left or right. Description is going to be left or right. And we're going to add some choices. So first choice is going to be left with a value of 1. We're going to add another one, which is going to be right with a value of 2. And then we're going to hit OK. So now when we go out, when we select on the deck, we've got left and right drop down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our cutout width and our cutout length. We're going to go back to the case, deck, and then we're going to make a measurement attribute u underscore cut out length, and then it's going to be cut out length with a value of 150. And then we're going to make the same again, u underscore cut out width this time, with a value of 200, so we can see the difference. Now when we select on the deck, we'll have cutout length and cutout width as well as left or right. So now what we're going to do, guys, is we are going to add a route to the deck. So I'm just going to grab my rectangle Draw out a rectangle, right click, select, and we're just going to make sure that it's cutting correctly. So we want it to be a path, not a pocket. We want it to cut on the left hand side. And then all we have to do now is add some equations to this so it references back to our attributes. So what we want to do now, you can see here that my back sits on the top of my bottom. So I'm going to have to add an equation in for this, which is going to be cab.case.ub, which is unfinished back, .dz, which is the thickness of the back. So no matter what cabinet I pull out, no matter what this cabinet material is made out of, should I say, it will set the cutout in the thickness of the back every time. So for our Y value, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add two statements in. So the first statement is going to be if U underscore LR equals 1, then it has to be 0. And then what I want to do is add another one straight away, which is U underscore left or right. I'm going to have to change the other one. Equals 2, then parent dy minus dy. Test. Quickly select back on this one and add the O in. And then hit OK. So for my Z value now, we need to make sure that our Z value is always 0, because if it's not, it can play a part in when you're nesting a job and how far your tool will go down. So in Cam Editor, we always want the Z position to be at 0. So now with the width, all we need to do is add it in the then part. So it's U underscore cut out width test, which you can see is 200, which we did before. The length is going to be the same, U underscore cut out length, test 150, and then we want our depth to always cut through the depth of the material. So what we're going to do is parent DZ. So now what we're going to do is we're going to test out to see if all of our attributes are working correctly. So we're going to select on our deck, cutout width 500, cutout length cutout width 300. So we can see that they are the opposite way. So what we need to do is now go back in to Cam Editor and change them around. Cut out length, and then we need these ones at cutout width. So we can see that it's sitting out still. So as you can see, our right works, but our left doesn't. So what we're going to have to do is go back in and check our Y equations to see what has gone wrong. Let's try by deleting this first one, this middle equation, hitting OK, because sometimes they auto-populate themselves. Now let's see, left and right is working correctly now. So just make sure, because object tree does auto-populate, so make sure that you are double checking those things. So you can see that all attributes are working correctly. We're going to face view, change base cabinet to sink cabinet, changes to sink cabinet. We can rotate our top stretcher correctly, and even rotating our top stretcher at elevation level while the cabinet is selected. Please note that this will only be attached to this cabinet when I go and pull out another cabinet. The toe height will be over the whole job, but none of our attributes that we just did on the other cabinet will be on this cabinet.
We hope you have enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.